All right, let's get started. We can admit our guests. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Teacher Prep Roadmap. We're excited to have you with us tonight. My name is Jeremy, and I am in Louisiana. Where are you? Drop into the chat. Which state are you in? We want to see where you all are logging in from. But thank you again for joining us. This session is for those who are choosing a teacher prep program, and that's one of the most important steps on your journey. So we're excited to have a conversation with you all tonight. And with so many pathways available, from traditional programs to teacher residencies, apprenticeships, alternative certifications, it can be challenging to know which option is the right fit. So tonight you're going to hear from educators who will share their experiences. They're going to discuss what to expect from the different preparation programs and offer some practical advice to help you choose the pathway that aligns with your goals, your values, and your lifestyle. Again, my name is Jeremy Davis, and I am excited to be your host and moderator for tonight. So, here's an overview of how we're going to spend our time together. We'll start by grounding ourselves in this virtual space, then share a quick overview of Teach and what we offer. From there, we'll look at some key opportunities and why this conversation matters, and then move into a rich panel discussion, a breakout sessions by region, and then we'll close with some questions from you and some next steps. I want to take a moment to ground us into space. So, please use the chat to share comments and to build community. If you'd like captions, click live transcript. Throughout the webinar, feel free to utilize the Q&A feature to share questions and reflections. We'll also provide a survey at the end, so your feedback really matters to us and it helps us be able to make these events better. Everyone who completes the survey will have a chance to win a $200 prize. So make sure you stay until the end. Our mission at Teach is to help in the national teacher shortage. We do that by partnering with state departments of education, with universities, with school districts across several states and metro areas, including Colorado, Connecticut, Dallas, Houston, Minnesota, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, San Antonio, South Carolina, and Maryland, to encourage as many people as possible to enter the teaching profession and make an impact on their communities. Teach offers personalized support to everyone interested in becoming a teacher. And this includes free one-on-one coaching with current educators, job listings, program search tools, direct financial assistance, checklists, and how-to guides. And if you live in one of our partner regions, you can access all of these through your Teach account. If you're outside of those regions, we'll still do our best to support you on your journey. So before we introduce our speakers, I want to ground us in this conversation just by naming that this conversation and this session is for those who are considering teaching, for those who want to know more about the different pathways, and for those who are still uncertain about if teaching is the right pathway. This session is for you. And with that, I'm excited to introduce our panelists for this evening. First, we have Angela. Angela is our Senior Regional Partnerships Manager at Teach Minnesota. Previously, she taught high school Spanish and served as a Director of Community Development and Inclusion at the YMCA of the North. Say hello to Angela, everyone. And then we also have Dr. Nicole Nickerson. She began her career as a high school history teacher in North Carolina before moving into nonprofit space. She's worked for the Carolina College Advising Corps and served as a director of college readiness at the Emily Center. Hi Nicole. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Yo, these are folks that I get to work with every single day, so I'm excited for you all to engage them in conversation like I get to talk to them every day. So, with that, thank you all, thank you both, for joining us. Every day you all work with people who are considering teaching and considering a career in education. So, I'll start with you, Angela. What's one thing that inspires you about the next generation of teachers? And what would you say to someone who's still wondering if teaching is the right pathway for them?
I love this question, JD. I think there's a couple things. I think first and foremost, teaching is such a giving profession, and just on a whole, it really inspires me that there are so many people willing to step in that mentorship role and willing to sort of share their time and interests and passions with others. And that looks so different depending on what subject you want to teach and what population of students and ages you want to teach. It's a really broad and really dynamic field. And so I love that there's sort of there's always this momentum to sort of pass the baton to the next generation of students and learners. And if you're wondering if teaching is right for you, I think what I would just encourage people today and going forward to consider is like, what are you really passionate about? Because I guarantee you there's something that you can teach in that subject. Whether it's like cosmetology or agricultural ed or something in the trades or your school subjects that you've experienced growing up. I think a lot of times people think, oh man, I don't know if teaching math or science or humanities as I learned it as a student is for me, or maybe there's some pause with that. And some people know that that's the subject they want to teach, and that's wonderful. But I also would just like ask you, what are you interested in? Because that's really what will fuel your work in the profession.
Yeah, I asked myself that same question, when I was considering teaching. I was a journalist, and so did a lot of writing, and so because that was my interest area, it became natural for me to go and start my journey as an English teacher. So you're certainly right. Figuring out, those interest areas and where there are strengths, is a great way for someone to start thinking about what pathway is right for them. So thank you for that. Same for you, Nicole. What's one thing that inspires you about the next generation of teachers, and what would you say to someone who is wondering if this is the right path or um, the right pathway for them to enter?
Sure. The first thing I say is it's not as scary as it seems. That's number one. I was a high school history teacher. I loved it. It was probably one of the best times of my lives. I started at 21 and I'm teaching 18-year-olds. I'm also about 5'2" on a good day. And so you've got these towering kids over you, regardless they're kids. And they need you. And I really encourage folks to follow that passion. I wanted to become a teacher because I had that spark from a high school history teacher that I had, Coach Stokes. And he was much more than a teacher to me. He was supportive outside of the classroom and someone that I still connect with today. And so it's not scary. It's not as scary. There are kids. They're kids, right? And
Yeah.
also follow that spark. Not everyone is lucky to get that spark of, hey, maybe I want to be a teacher, or maybe this is the pathway for me. And I'm sure that other fields say the same thing. Follow that spark because it really can lead you in so many different directions for sure.
Oh, certainly, certainly. It was middle school for me. So I became a fifth grade teacher and looped up with my students for several years. So I taught them for sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. So when you're thinking about like which grade levels, you have Nicole here who taught high school, and then I taught middle school, and so you'll get to have some conversations with some of our coaches later who also have varying levels of experience in where they have began their teaching career. So keep those questions in mind, for our coaches a little bit later on. So again, for both of you all, thinking big picture, and there are several pathways, and I would love to break these down between the both of you all. But there's so many different pathways to become a teacher, and it can feel overwhelming. I heard you mention, Nicole, it's not scary, and it's because we can figure out how to answer many of the questions that are overwhelming. And one of those can be, what are or how can we break down, the different types of pathways. So we have traditional, we have alternative certifications, we have residencies and apprenticeships. So would love for the two of you all to help us break down those pathways. I'll start with you, Nicole, on the traditional pathway.
Sure. So the traditional pathway, and for a context, I'm in the state of North Carolina. So hello to everyone that I see in North Carolina. Um, so traditional, I did that. I went to an EPP, an educator prep program here in North Carolina as a freshman in college. And I said, hey, I want to be a history teacher. And from prerequisite classes to my teaching courses and my student internship, all of those steps took me to becoming licensed. So, what that looks like is you are a first-time freshman and you are starting from scratch. You have no degree yet. We have a growth mindset here. You have no degree yet, and you are working towards your degree in education. And so, depending on if you want to teach elementary ed, middle school, special education, high school, all of the fields, you will major in that area. So, again, for example, I majored in history with a teacher education certification after that. And the teacher prep program will help you become licensed from there. That's one of the easiest ways that I can describe it in the state of North Carolina because you are starting from scratch, right? But a lot of us are career changers. I know that a lot of us here at Teach are career changers
Yep.
as well. And so
Right.
if you are wanting to go the traditional route, but you have a bachelor's degree, which wonderful, congratulations. You would more than likely be working towards a master's degree or a master's of arts in teaching. In the state of North Carolina, you have to receive a master of arts in teaching to be able to get your teacher licensure in North Carolina. And so, what that looks like is the state of North Carolina says, hey, Jeremy, I see that you have a bachelor's degree, and that's wonderful. I'm going to receive your transcript. I love this. I will make sure that you get all of your teacher classes because maybe Jeremy did major in English, so he has his prerequisites for English, but he needs his teacher classes. He also needs to do his student internship as well. And through that, the teacher ed or the educator prep program, excuse me, will walk Jeremy through this is what a praxis looks like in the state of North Carolina, your testing. This is what your Ed TPA looks like, this portfolio that we have to turn in. But you already have your bachelor's degree, and they're just filling in the gaps of, I need you to have a little bit more experience in the teaching realm. So that's traditional, and that's really easy to say, but it is a lot of hard work. I will say that our educator prep programs in all of our regions do a wonderful job of walking the candidates, the users through what they actually need to become licensed in the state.
Yeah, that was a great explanation of the traditional pathways. And as Nicole mentioned, she's in North Carolina. So if you have specific questions about your region or your state, make sure that you keep those in mind and bring those to your regional breakout spaces in just a little while. But I want to bring Angela into the conversation to share with us more about the alternative licensure pathway.
Sure thing. So, alternative licensure is kind of an interesting name because it is licensure, just that's not degree awarding. So, this might be a perfect fit for you if you already have a bachelor's or master's degree. So, I'm coming to you from Minnesota, was licensed to teach in the state of Maine, taught in Boston, Massachusetts, and now I'm back here. So, I know a little bit about licensure in a couple regions in the country, but however, I'm excited for these breakout rooms because each piece is a little bit unique. So sort of the 5,000, high above level view of alternative licensure. There's a couple different avenues for that, and it might vary a little bit state by state. So first, you could find alternative licensure programs within higher ed institutions. So that means that you might go to a program in Minnesota. Bethel University is a great example. You could attend Bethel as a student and get just a teaching license. So you don't need to get a bachelor's degree with it. You don't need to get a master's degree. This is often a really good avenue for folks that maybe either already have their bachelor's and or master's and or PhD. We see a lot of folks in our group advising sessions that come to us with very advanced degrees that want to go into the subject and go into the field, but maybe don't need another degree or want another degree. You can also find alternative pathways through our career and technical education programs. Oftentimes, programs, those aren't degree awarding. However, between your work experience, perhaps in the trades, or your interest in going into maybe a non-traditional academic subject, that would allow you to step into an alternative licensure program. And those providers often are not within higher ed institutions. And then there are also other providers that, again, aren't through higher ed institutions that will offer programs that often are specific to shortage area subjects. So, in Minnesota, we have providers that are really interested in licensing folks just in special education, for example, or elementary education. And oftentimes those programs support folks that have a bachelor's degree that are looking to get really hands-on experience. Oftentimes those programs are a little bit cheaper, and they're really hyper-specific to the subject that you might want to teach. So I think these fields are all great for folks that have their bachelor's degrees and that are interested in doing it without obtaining another degree, or are looking for a really tailored experience, or for something specific in like the CTE world, for example.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Again, another great explanation and breakdown of alternative pathways, or excuse me, alternative certifications and licensure. And so when we think about what I mentioned earlier, is you have access to our program search tools that we have through your Teach account. So if you have a Teach account, know that you can find both traditional and alternative licensure options in your region through our program finder tool. So you'll have our coaches talk to you a little bit more about that in our breakout spaces. But then there are these other two pathways that we have also come to know, and those are residencies and apprenticeships. And so, Nicole, I would love for you to share about residencies, and Angela would love to bring you back to share about apprenticeships. But we'll start with you, Nicole.
Sure. So, residency programs are really unique here in North Carolina. We actually have some counties, or what we call districts, that have their own residency programs. And so when I initially started talking about EPPs, or educator prep programs, I was referring to schools, right? Universities, North Carolina, NC State, Duke, things like this. But here in North Carolina, we have some districts that have their own. So, i.e., Winston-Salem Forsyth has a residency program. Charlotte Mecklenburg has a residency program. And a great way to think about it is it's in-house, right? The
Mm,
state of North Carolina was not spared, unfortunately, just like many of our other regions, in the teacher shortage, especially after 2020. And so, what the state of North Carolina is trying to do is get folks in the classroom who really want to be there, but we know that it takes some time to get the certification, to ensure that you have the classes that you need to take your tests, your licensure, and all of that. So they said, hey, we'll give you this temporary license, but I need you to be in a residency program. So if you decide that you want to teach in Charlotte, you will register, you will apply to the Charlotte Mecklenburg residency program. You will be working while in a school, and get your teaching license at the same time. What's nice in North Carolina is that these folks help with interviews, resumes. They help with classes, test prep for your praxis, for your ed TPA. It's in-house. This is also for folks who have a bachelor's degree, but they don't necessarily want a master's, because sometimes it's not necessary unless you just want a bunch of decoration on your wall, which love that for you. I'm definitely one of those people. But if you don't want that, they help you with all of that. So one more time is that some districts here in North Carolina have their own in-house. So if I apply at Charlotte Mecklenburg, they will place me in a school within Charlotte Mecklenburg. I will have a temporary license that will last 3 years. Within those 3 years, I need to complete any coursework that I may be missing. And I also need to get licensed, i.e., complete my praxis test, excuse me.
awesome. 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 Yeah, in-house is a great way to think about residency and residency programs. And Angela, can you share with us about apprenticeships?
Sure thing. So apprenticeships are very similar in a lot of ways to residencies. And I will say this is an area that we're seeing grow and just expand at a rapid rate, sort of across all of our teach regions. And residencies because of that. In some places, they're really responding to all of this growth and this interest. And so they're really building these programs sort of in real time, which is great because we're seeing it serve a lot of very specific district need and need for the teacher shortage in our states across the country. So registered teacher apprenticeships really allow individuals, usually individuals without a bachelor's degree, although there's a couple different distinctions of apprenticeships, to work as you are doing your coursework and working toward your degree. So typically you'll hear apprenticeships referred to as you learn programs, which makes them really sort of like a really important, it fills an important niche, right, for folks that maybe can't take unpaid time to go back to school or, want to be paid for their time doing the work to sort of their teacher apprenticeship, right? So these programs are generally paid, and I would say they're usually for career changers. For non-licensed school staff, there's a lot of programs I know in Minnesota that have a are specific to current paraprofessionals or folks that are working towards getting their teacher licensure. And oftentimes, they work really closely with the districts to make sure everything that's happening in their current placements is what can apply as coursework to their programs. So in Minnesota, apprenticeships are sort of a three-way partnership between unions or like the Department of Labor and Industry, our sponsors, districts, and a teacher preparation program. So you're really well teed up to exactly like you're saying, Nicole, to have those really organic relationships within your district. And sort of as they're expanding, in many states, they're saying what districts want to be on board and how can you connect your district if they don't currently have apprenticeships. So apprenticeships, there's kind of three different main categories that you might see based on your state. There's apprenticeships for folks that have no bachelor's degree. So if you're looking for a bachelor's level apprenticeship or like a para to teacher program, those are sort of the most common. Or if you have a bachelor's degree in another field, you might have a post-bac or like a licensure only apprenticeship program. Or finally, sometimes districts have grow your own programs where you'll see sort of those really hyper-specific in-house apprenticeship programs.
Yeah. Man, so many different pathways. And again, like both Angela and Nicole shared, these can look very different depending on the state that you're in. So again, it's important for you all to stick around for those regional breakout spaces so we can answer your specific questions about licensure and the programs that are available in your state. So Nicole, now that we've talked about, all these different pathways, once someone understands the different pathways, how should they then determine which one is the best fit for them and their goals, their lifestyle, their timeline, and their financial situations? What are those things they should consider?
Sure. I would say, number one, take advantage of all the free resources that these universities, residency programs, all of that give. I think you can get a really great vibe from them just by taking advantage of that. A lot of universities and residency programs and everything else, they have open houses that they're excited for folks to come to see. They also have workshops too. I know in North Carolina, there are a number of workshops that universities, colleges, and universities have. They're career days as well. If you're able, financially able, please go on campus. Go and schedule a meeting with any of your potential professors, with your advisors, and make a selection from there. I think what is a really is a hindrance for some folks is not that the school isn't great, it's that it's just not for you, right? I like a certain type of ice cream. Things that I don't like, ice cream has a lot of stuff in it, and I don't like that. It's not for me. It might be for you. I like plain, okay? I like plain. That's me. But in all seriousness, please go and see. I think that the vibe for any college, university, community college, anything you'll be able to pick up on when you go to that college or university. These are wonderful institutions and it will get you to where you want to go, but you want to do that comfortably and you want to do that in a way that makes you happy and proud of that process. And so I would say visit, take advantage of all of their free resources. Even starting from emailing an advisor and saying, hey, can you just review my transcript? Many folks will do that for free, and they'll be able to say something about your transcript that they would recommend this program for you or that program for you, and you haven't paid anything to them yet. So please go on campus if you're able to schedule meetings, go to workshops, open houses to make sure that it is a great fit for you, your lifestyle, for sure, because you certainly don't want to enter something and you're already stressed out and a bit scattered because it can happen even if it's unintentional.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I like your example. You said we all like different flavors of ice cream. I certainly do. And then sometimes I run into types of ice creams that I have questions about. So,
Yeah.
with that, Angela, what questions should a prospective teacher ask before they're committing to an education prep program? Maybe not the same questions as ice cream, but
I love the ice cream analogy. I too am not one for a lot of things in there, but that's totally somebody else's yum, so I love it. Um, so I have a few, and a lot are sort of related to following up with some of like the deeper details of what a teacher preparation program might offer. The first thing that I'd always recommend to people is ask a follow-up question about the sticker cost of an institution. Because a lot of times you might see that tuition might look like it's $50,000, especially if it's like a private ed institution. And that might look way less favorable on paper than something that's $5,000 to go to. However, oftentimes most students don't pay the full sticker cost. And there are a lot of scholarships and programs during and after school that teacher prep programs provide. So I would always say, as you're sort of making your list of institutions, follow up with them and put a wide variety on your list, both of things that appear more expensive right off the bat and things that don't, and sort of see what financial aid might be available. I would also say, always ask them about their district partnerships. That will be so key for how your experience is as a student and once you're looking to teach. So when I taught in Maine, there were a ton of different placement opportunities for my student teaching, and oftentimes students that went on to be connected from a district from your teacher prep program would often be extended job opportunities from those districts, or they'd be connected to another district that was similarly looking for opportunities. So usually your teacher prep programs are super connected to districts, both for job opportunities. They want to see their alumni succeed. And a lot of districts hold grants and other funding that school districts don't necessarily have access to award. However, they can help place new teachers in these districts, and then the districts can help either with loan forgiveness or opportunities to connect you to grants that the districts might hold through the state. I would also say you should ask what supports alumni of the program, whether it's at a higher ed institution or a different opportunity. What the alumni network looks like and sort of what supports are available for alumni, especially in their first year or two of teaching. Those are often the trickier years as you're sort of like getting to know your curriculum and your rhythm, and sort of having that community is going to be super, super important. I would also say you've heard a lot about the different pathways that you might be able to take as a teacher. I would often say, what other add-ons or perks are readily available to obtaining your initial license that might boost sort of your experience once you get into the classroom? So oftentimes, for example, programs might say you can graduate with your initial licensure. However, 90% of our students also take 3 more credits and they get an additional license. Maybe it's in reading literacy. Maybe it's with working with multi-language learners. Maybe it's an additional SPED license. And that will open up so many doors to sort of the experiences that you can have. Or, we talked about the difference between licensure only and, for example, like a master's track. So I'll use the example of Bethel University. If you go through a licensure only program at Bethel, it's only a few more credits to get your master's. So I would say just ask sort of what are these additional opportunities or perks that are available to students to continue to open doors once you get your initial licensure. And then I would also say the last thing I'll add is that if you are already coming in with a bachelor's or master's and you're going into a program sort of with this academic experience behind you, ask if you can count those classes towards your program. Oftentimes, like in Minnesota, we have teacher prep program providers that will say, great, you've already taken and demonstrated your content area expertise. That will shorten your time a lot, and it will also save you on money. So, and then you only have those pedagogy courses after that. So if you're coming in with an experience, especially academic experience, ask to see if that can count towards your licensure.
No. Lots of great questions that you brought up there. And some of those questions that you mentioned can be answered by some of our coaches. And so, if you have not already signed up, know that we have one-on-one coaches who can offer these personalized supports and answer many of the questions, or help guide you to the place where we can find and answer some of these questions, that Angela mentioned. So, thank you. We're about to get ready to head into our breakout space in just a little bit, but before we do, I want to ask the both of you, for someone who is leaving today's sessions and getting ready to go into our breakout spaces, who's still unsure, about the next step, what are some resources or supports that you would recommend, that they could use to make them informed? We'll start with you, Nicole.
Well, teach.org, of course, our one-on-one coaching sessions. But we also have so many resources on our individual Teach Minnesota, Teach New York, Houston, Dallas, and we can keep going. We have so many resources on our websites. For North Carolina, we have help with financial aid. Angela did a wonderful job talking about the sticker price versus what you actually pay. Our coaches are phenomenal and they're from across our states. They're not just concentrated in one area, and they are current teachers or current educators. And so they can answer those questions of even something that may sound silly of how do you stand up and lecture? Well, I can tell you exactly what it feels like. In addition, I would say going to your state education agency. We say SEA. In North Carolina, it's our Department of Instruction. I know it's called something different in the other regions. They have all of the resources you will need to know what is up and coming. What do you need to become licensed in the state that you want to teach in? What are some loopholes that they may have? Angela again brought up a great point that if you've already got a degree or two, some higher ed institutions will be able to credit you for that. And so, of course, teach.org is wonderful. Also, your state education agencies have a lot of opportunities for you. Teach.org, also, we have events monthly. I mean, we have how to become a teacher at this school and that school. We do regional events, we do in-person things. Um, and we really also pub other events as well that we aren't necessarily hosting, but we think would be wonderful for you all. We put those on our website as well, our state website. So I would definitely go through whatever state you're in. And if you currently are in a state that we aren't in yet, please reach out to us as well. We can do our best to help you find those resources to get you licensed.
Yeah. And Angela, your thoughts. What would you share with someone, who's still unsure about the next steps? What supports or resources would you recommend?
Gosh, well, I love some of the things that Nicole outlined earlier with the question of like how do I figure out what pathway is best for me? And I think going back to the ice cream analogy, figure out your non-negotiables. Becky and I always talk about this with people in our group advising sessions in Minnesota of think about what are the things that for you is like I need this or I will not appreciate or get out of the experience what I need to. So for some people, it's cost. It's I cannot pay more than X, Y, and Z. For myself, I needed to be in person. I just didn't learn as well as I could online. So think about what are some of your non-negotiables for a program and write that down first. Just get it on paper and allow yourself to say, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And then also some of those things that are, I would like, but I could give it up here or there. Because that, and then sign up for our one-on-one advising and go in with that. Because I think if you can pair them together, that will give your advisors a lot of time and resources to be able to like help map out the different pathways for you. I would also say in many states, if you have your bachelor's degree, you can be a substitute teacher. Just get some time in the classroom, get a foot in the door, or volunteer in a local school. That'll help you just get a feel for sort of what type of school you want to teach in, what grade levels you want to teach, what subject you want to teach. And I would also just say, as you're sort of perusing options, I would definitely like stay on the Teach websites, only because sometimes there are online options which look really favorable, but oftentimes those aren't accredited within the state that you're working in. And so while they look like great opportunities, it's easy to work and do something on the same time, that will lead you to a lot more hurdles down the line getting licensed in your state. So I would just say that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and you don't want to run into those types of hurdles. So it is best that you sign up for one-on-one coaching here at Teach so that we can steer you down the right pathway and help you find that. Yeah, we can do that. Before we head into breakout spaces, I really want to thank Angela and Nicole for being with us today and for sharing your experiences. And also, that we still have the opportunity for you all to share feedback. And so, in the chat, we'll drop in here real quick, the survey link. We want to hear your feedback. And now, before we head into breakout spaces, want to quickly share who you're going to be meeting. So, if you're in Colorado, we want you to spend some time with Kate. Kate's going to share some more about teaching in Colorado and how to become licensed and certified there. Nicole will be joining us in North Carolina. We'll have Athenia in Texas. We'll have Kim in Connecticut. We'll have Karen in New York. Sherilyn will be logging in from South Carolina, Jessica in New Mexico, and then we'll have Becky in Minnesota. And then finally, we'll have Lisa who will be hosting our national space. So if you are not in any of those other regions that I named, please feel free to join the national space, and Lisa will help guide you through some options and share with you about how to get licensed there. So with that, our breakout spaces should now be opening. Go ahead now and select the space that's right for you in your region so that you can get the information that you need. There we go. See folks joining into those breakout spaces. All right. Enjoy, y'all, and ask those questions to our coaches.